accepted.
Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be talking about Dance Moms, one of my favorite shows of all time. But I'm going to be dissecting Dance Moms, what's real, what's fake, from the perspective of a once competitive dancer. I still dance to this very day, but I used to compete in dance competitions from about age 13 to obviously 18 till I was a senior. So I thought, I watch a lot of Dance Mom content on YouTube, love the show, but there's not always the perspective of people who danced, who are in competitive spaces, to kind of talk about what is really real. What's the tea? Is the show somewhat realistic in a sense? But as far as the dance world, how much of what they did in the show or showed actually happens at competitions? So I'm here to be a little guru today. So I'm going to give you all the rundown, the tea, the scoop, the everything. Like, comment down below if you love Dance Moms. What is the most shocking thing to find out in this video? Let me know. And hit that subscribe button if you want to see more commentary content like this. Thanks so much for watching. And without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Let's go. We're first going to start off with the actual dance competitions. In later seasons of Dance Moms, a lot of fans were questioning if the competitions were real. And a lot of people were questioning if they were real the whole time, were they fake at some point, because they noticed a lot of people weren't really showing up for the competition. There's approximately 20 people on stage. Can't make that shit up. In later seasons, and they would go to the same competition all the time. So I'm here to tell you, in the first few seasons, I believe wholeheartedly, 110% that these are real. Some of the competitions that they did compete at that are actual reputable competitions that people go to that are popular would include Star Power, Hollywood Vibe, Starbound, Star Quest, West Coast Dance Explosion. I think that's why so many dancers, dance studio owners were drawn to the show, because they were going to these competitions that were popular, some of the most popular competitions in the country. As the seasons went on, like I mentioned, there was less variety in the competitions. They were actually kicked off and banned from one competition in season 1, Star Quest, for their dance Electricity. So that is one explanation I can give for why they never went back to one like Star Quest, but that was what was reported. And then I think at a certain point, to control the narrative, to control who's there, how many people are going against who in later seasons, and it was proven, right? And I will link a video down below and on the screen here so that you guys can go watch this. But there were some competitions that were fake that Kalani and Kira were like, yeah, they're pretty much fabricated, they're fake. There were claims that they were only competing against 2 studios at some of the competitions. If you've ever been to a real competition, you know that there are usually tons of people. I'm talking award ceremonies, like 100, 150 people on stage. Later seasons, you would literally see like 30 people on stage. And I was like, yeah, this is fake. This isn't fully real. No, it's not real. You would even see, and I think JoJo might have said this, but they used to like put people in and it'd say, everybody, you got to sit next to each other to make it look more full. You see what I'm saying? And half of those people in the audience were probably fans who wanted to just see a dance competition. I know from firsthand, a studio that I later would teach at in later years, they actually competed against the Dance Mom girls here in Michigan. And they had expressed that they felt like the competition was catered to them and that it was an unfair chance, an unfair shot. So this is coming from people who actually were there on a filming day, who shot the show. I don't know all of the details, but I do know at a certain point you have to create for TV, and it's easier to control the narrative if you are controlling what competitions you're going to and the who, what, when, where, and why. Age groups. We need to talk about this because season 1, especially between Maddie and Chloe, the rivalry. Age groups. In the show, they tried to make it seem like Chloe and Maddie competed against each other more than they actually did. In reality, Maddie started the show when she was 8 and Chloe was 9. That's usually the perfect cutoff for age group, like petite versus junior. So I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of some of the age groups at a real dance competition. I'm going to be using Hall of Fame as my example. Again, it's a popular competition and I used to compete at this one. So for example, age groups go Little League, 6 years old, future Hall of Famers, 7 and 8 year olds, junior, 9 to 11, teen, 12 to 14, senior, 15 to 18, and then there's a 19 plus. Now, forget the names. They're usually just translated different between different competitions. But as you can clearly see, Maddie was usually a year younger and Chloe was older. So half the time they really weren't competing against each other, especially in that first season. The next portion is difficulty level. This is a huge way that people scam competitions, how they try to cheat the competition. Mind you, at a real competition, the discretion is usually left to the dance studio owner. So we're going based off integrity here. I'm going to use Hall of Fame again as the example. There's usually 3 difficulty levels. At Hall of Fame, there's a rookie league, which is recreational. And they usually say that's people who have really little experience competing. Then you have the National League, which is intermediate level dancers who study for 3 to 5 hours a week, roughly. And the last one is the American League, which is advanced level dancers that dance more than 5 hours a week, usually a lot more. Of course, there's no way that the competition can know these things, but again, it's up to the teacher's discretion. Dance moms, producers could easily finesse the difficulty level. You can technically get disqualified if you put your kid in a level and the dance is extremely advanced, but I feel like that's pretty rare. I think this is an explanation for why people competing against them say that they win all the time. Because if Abby wanted to, if she knew a competition was going to be harder and she felt like her girls weren't up to par, she really wanted to win, she could simply enroll them in the intermediate level and that would probably, she'd get away with it. An example of this was actually on episode 7 in season 2. Bullets and Ballet. I found the scores for each dance and all of their dances, Private Eyes, the one with the guns, Over and Over, the trio, Please, Chloe's solo, and even Maddie's solo. It looks like 3 out of 4 of these dances were intermediate. And my theory is because Private Eyes was a jazz dance, that dance to me was advanced. I thought it was advanced. They were doing tricks, they were doing turns, all types of stuff. But because it was a jazz dance, and I think Abby always gets weird about jazz because she feels like it's not going to win and sweep, I think they strategically placed the girls in the intermediate category. Because why is a Chloe, Maddie, and Paige trio intermediate? Why are they even intermediate? They should never be intermediate in a competition, in my opinion. But that's an example of how they can strategically use the system, get ahead to give yourself a competitive advantage. Now, that's also one of the reasons why, based off age, difficulty level, why Abby would be concerned, like, do we need to pull Nia out? Do we need to pull Kalani out? Should we put them in? It all depended on who they were going against. They take the average of ages. And I think we see this with Kathy. Prime example, when season 2, she introduced her team and she had to throw Vivi and Justice in it to bring down the age group a hair so that they could compete. So that's actually a legitimate breakdown of what the levels look like. And I don't think people always understand that. It's not like everybody goes to one competition and everyone's competing against each other. If you're in intermediate, you're competing with intermediate. If you're in advanced, you're usually competing against advanced. Sometimes they mix the two, but there's levels to this shit. The next one of my favorite, most noticeable things was style categories in competitions and how they use this to edit and make it seem like they won when they really didn't win overall. So in each competition, you can enter your solo in different styles, right? So you can only choose one style. Some common ones are jazz, contemporary hip hop, musical theater, ballet, acro, and open. We've seen pretty much all of these on the show. So for example, hypothetical, let's say I competed a jazz solo and there was like 10 other solos that were lyrical, acro, a little bit of everything. I can win first place in the jazz category, but also win 5th place overall. And there's been a few times, and they did this with Nia a lot. I noticed that anytime she would win something, they wanted her to win something. Sometimes they would say, well, she won in her category, but they would brush over it. Or there's probably been times where they've done a dance And they didn't necessarily win overall, but to fit the winning streak narrative that they had, especially I think it was season 3, let's just call this category win an overall, right? So you guys got to be really careful about that, because that is a very, 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 very easy way to finesse and edit. It was very easy for them to make things look a certain way because there's so many different categories, it gets confusing. We're gonna get into some fun facts because the dance world is so freaking small. I've ran into quite a few people who have been on the show, who know some people on the show, and have seen a little bit of the behind the scenes. So I'm from Michigan, and I danced with a girl who danced with Mary. Mary was on the show. She actually ended up being on the Candy Apples team. But her mama, Gina, actually owns Energy Dance Competition. And I believe they're seen going to Energy Dance as early as season 2. I don't think Mary went on the show until season 3 or 4. So you guys have to see there's a bit of a conflict of interest, because at one point, Gina wanted her daughter to be on Abby's team. So you guys have to think about stuff like this. The dance world's so small that you guys might have not even noticed, but she was in Energy, she was doing that. And a lot of these girls, even when they do go to Kathy's studio or they go to Abby's studio, they still train at their home studio, right? Like, they literally will just go to film. And when Mary went on Candy Apples, that's presumably what happened. And in some episodes, you can even see Mary competing against the girls, like early on, and even her sitting with her team. And one of my friends at the time was in it, and that's how I knew she was on Dance Moms, that they've competed against them a few times. And then also one time I was watching TV. I was watching one episode. I have to find it. But I saw that my college professor, was judging one of the dance competitions. So that's another fun fact. The dance world is extremely small. He never told me about what it was like to judge them or what the process was like. I'd love to get more of an inside look to see, like, is it really rigged? I don't think so. I don't think the judges always did that, but I do think maybe in the made-up competitions, they might have, been able to sway the judges. And then also in episode 2, season 1, the electricity dance.
Will be called electricity. Everybody say that.
You guys may or may not know this, but back in 2010, there was a single ladies dance from Dance Precisions, a really, really popular studio. And I'm fully convinced that the producers wanted to recreate this moment in the outrage because they saw how it worked in real life. So let's make some buzz and do it on the show. I remember seeing that. Again, I dance. So I used to watch YouTube videos of dancers all the time competing. I had seen the single ladies dance. Kind of outrageous, kind of is an understatement.
I hate to say it though, but it's so common for inappropriate costumes. I used to compete and see 5-year-olds in Daisy Duke outfits. So this is kind of normal in the dance community. Oddly so. I know it's disgusting.
But it hit the Today Show. It hit every kind of press, every kind of media you could think of. The costumes are really similar. The dance moves are crude. That's one thing. You might have known this, you might not have, but it shook the dance community when that dance happened the first time, the single ladies. So when I saw electricity, I was like, I've seen this before. Which is kind of messed up, but I've seen it before. So now I'm going to go rapid fire. I'm going to go through a list of things that were frequently done on the show, and if it happens in the real dance world at a studio, or if that ever happened to me training. So first and foremost, the pyramid. Number one question, this has been debunked by all the dancers, but obviously nobody does a pyramid. They might have after the show because they saw Abby did it, but nobody. And I remember watching the first episode and I'm like, who does this? And of course, when they present the show, I think a lot of people who aren't dancers are like, whoa, this is kind of intense. Like, is this really what dance is like? It's competitive. Teachers might make a mental pyramid in their head, and that's how Abby tried to describe it. But like, no one would ever physically do that. 2, no. Dancers do not compete every single weekend with a new routine. That is very exclusive to the show. I have never seen. There are some studios who, during competition season, they do compete probably every weekend, but we usually have breaks. And usually, some of the moms say this, but you start learning your dance the summer of. So like, let's say you might start learning it in July. and you might not compete till February. So they really were going against people who've had solos that they've been redefining, refining for almost a year. Also, another thing, no, you usually don't have the dressing room to yourself. In the show, they do this cute moment where they always, set up their mirrors and they have this room and they have their curtains. Half the time, you are in a dressing room with 50 other girls from other studios, chaotic, yelling, craziness, okay? Another one, all of the dances they said were ballet on the show, and I mean all of them, were not ballet. It's not. It's contemporary, not ballet. That used to irk me. The closest thing we got was Broken Dolls, beautiful, stunning dance. That's the closest thing, maybe the only exception. But all of the other ones, absolutely not. Throw it in the trash. Now, I was a dancer. I did competition dance. I did concert dance, but I also did a lot of ballet. So I've taken classes from the Joffrey. I've traveled to New York for Alvin Ailey. I performed with American Ballet Theater. So I've known a little bit of everything, every aspect. The Joffrey audition, a joke. I'm 100% convinced that that was completely fabricated for the show. First off, there would be no closed audition. Second of all, Nia death drop.
Did pretty well.
Brooke is tumbling,
Going to go over.
doing chin stands. Mackenzie's shaking her hips. Wouldn't happen.
I don't know how they dragged Joffrey into that.
When you go to auditions for a summer intensive, there's usually 60 to 100 girls in the room. You have your numbers. You don't always have to do a solo. I've never done a summer intensive audition where I had to do a solo. But of course you do across the floor, ballet bar. Yeah, you're not auditioning for the company. It's summer intensive. Far off, way off, hot mess. Let's talk about it. Yes, studio rivalries are real. They're live and well. All of that drama that they somewhat fabricated from Kathy and Abby's relationship, some of that stuff does really happen. There's been competitions where a studio is coming and you know that they lie about their age, or you know that they have this trick up their sleeve. Sometimes they get banned, but other times, hey, if you're going to give the competition your money, that also goes into, for instance, the studio hopping, studio rules. Realistically, a lot of the moms would say, if I do this, Abby's going to blackball me and my kid. If I do this, I'm going to get in trouble. If I do this. Depends on the studio you went to, but some of that stuff is actually true. Really competitive studios that take pride, and I mean they are competitive studios, don't play. I'm a dance teacher and I know dance teachers. I've had friends who had to sign a contract, and if they wanted to get out of it, they could not teach within a 20-mile radius. Do you guys know how far 20 miles is? Because it's very territorial. If you leave, if you slight them, it is beef. It's drama with a lot of these studio owners. Abby's bad, but people like that do exist. They might not be as rah-rah as Abby. They might not be as mean on the outside, but on the inside, they use these kids. They use competitions as an excuse to be nasty, to try to get ahead, to say that they're better than. It's like, come on, it's just a dance competition. But I'm here to tell you firsthand that there is a lot of drama. Studio owners are petty, and often you can get locked into really serious contracts. And the last part, I think this is one of the most valuable opinions that I could have, is, were they actually good? Were the dancers on Dance Moms, on Abby's team, actually good dancers? Yes, 100% yes. Yes, yes, yes. Especially in the earlier seasons as they were younger, their dance level overall was extremely advanced for their age, 110%. To the average studio. Was Abby's studio the best studio? No. I used to watch YouTube videos of competitions. I used to keep up with studios. Actually, matter of fact, studios like Club Dance, Marietta Dance Project was on the show. Mather Dance Company, Dance Precisions. Those are a few studios that come to mind that are more competitive and are overall a better studio. Kalani and Bryn actually came from Club Dance. I'd known who they were before they were on the show. So Abby's not the best of the best. Her dancers are not like the best competitive dancers, but there is such thing as good competitive dancers and people who are just good professional employable dancers. But I think Abby was more in the business of creating professional dancers. Again, people who would be on Broadway, who would actually make careers out of it, not just to win a trophy. And I will say, as a technically trained dancer, I do think that Abby did a really good job of teaching them technical skills, technique, but artistry. Like Maddie, especially Maddie and Chloe, great dancers, stunning dancers. They looked so mature on stage. They were expressive. They had beautiful lines. And especially, like I said, Maddie to me is a prodigy. I think that she's amazing. I think she's excellent. And I think she can definitely hold her own against very competitive dancers, wholeheartedly. A lot of people use the argument, well,
if Maddie were to go against my daughter would beat her.
Or whatever. Just because Maddie's not doing a full leg split in the back, or she can't do some super duper duper crazy gymnastics acrobatic trick, she can dance her ass off. But I genuinely do think she was teaching them, for the most part, age-appropriate technique, and they were good dancers. I think it was an excellent studio to put on here. So thanks so much for watching. Like, comment down below. What was the most shocking thing that you found out today? And hit that subscribe button if you would love to see more content from me. And I will see you in my next